Hey everybody, welcome to J Stern Designs. Today what I want to do is show you a quick technique to fix a hole in some Nike sports pants that my daughter brought home with her from spring break. These are her beloved Eastern volleyball or stretch pants or yoga pants. And they were splitting right on the inseam near the crotch. And of course, when she asked me to fix it, I thought, oh, I'm just going to get my serger down and I'll just serge a new seam and it'll be all set. But when I looked at the seams, I realized, since they're flat constructed, if I had used the 4-thread on my serger, it would have made a yucky transition from flat back to a traditionally sewn seam. So you can see on one side here, I fixed it already, and this is the side that still has the hole. Okay, so you can see it's sort of a flat felled treatment because the seam allowances are on the right side of the fabric, and that's where it's splitting. Now, interestingly, what I decided to do is use a piece of lightweight black knit I have. It's really stretchy. It almost matches the color perfectly, you can see here. And I'm going to use that instead of a fusible interface to support where I'm going to reinforce it. Now, my initial idea was I was going to put this knit strip on the wrong side and stitch from the top to finish it and make it look nice. But when I finished and I went to go trim the extra fabric away, I realized I actually did it on the outside of this seam. This is basically a what not to do. You don't want to put your fabric on the right side of the seam. You want to put it on the wrong side of the seam for this technique. Luckily for me, my fabric was so close of a match you can't really tell. So we don't have to tell Abby about this. She'll never know. All right, so first what I want to say is I'm using that excellent Coats & Clark Eloflex thread, and I have it in the bobbin and in the needle, and I'm using a size 14 stretch needle for this project. I figured I had to go through several layers, so instead of a 12, I'm using the 14, and it worked perfectly without breaking. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to find a piece of lightweight knit in your stash that's close to the color of the pants you're fixing. This is a double brushed, densely woven poly, and it's really, it's really nice because it's really stretchy. It's not see-through, and I can see that it's going to be a nice support for this seam. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to turn this inside out. Okay, so you can see from the wrong side where the hole is. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay my knit strip along my seam. And this is obviously way longer than I need, so I'll just trim it over here. I don't need that much. And then from the right side, I'm just going to pin it in place. And I'm not using any fusible on this because I want it to be as stretchy as possible. I'm just using the fabric to reinforce the seam. So you can see I've got it. If I look back at my wrong side, I've got it pinned on. Okay, and I'm just going to pin it on the top and the bottom of where I'm sewing, and then I'll put a couple pins in between, or maybe just a single pin in between. But I want to make sure I cover the area. So see, I've got it pinned like that. Okay, and then from the right side now, what I want to do is I want to just pin these edges closed. So I'm just going to put a pin now vertically along the seam. See, and now I've got it pinned shut. Okay, so at the top of where the boo-boo is, at the bottom of where the boo-boo is, and in the middle of where the boo-boo is. And that holds those layers together really nicely. This is kind of a no fuss, no muss kind of project. Okay, so again, I've got my Eloflex thread, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sewing machine and show you how I sewed this. I've put the pants in so that there's nothing underneath the layer I'm trying to sew, and I can peek and make sure my knit strip is still laying flat, which it is. So I removed my first pin. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a triple zigzag. The triple zigzag is the stitch that stitches in three stitch steps in each direction. So it sort of goes back and forth, but it does 3 stitches in each direction. I'm gonna make it as wide as I can. On this machine, it's a 6mm. Some machines will let you go a little bit wider than that. And I'm gonna make the density or the stitch length a little shorter than normal. So I have it at 0.5. So basically now I'm just gonna stitch. And I just wanna stitch all the way down. I'm catching the layer and making it flat again. When I get to this last pin, I'm just going to take that out and go a little bit farther than the pin, because I know I pinned it at the end of the hole. All right, so now let's look and see what we have. All right, so you can see from the right side, I just put it on my little pressing hand. It's a little bit rippled there. So I'm going to use my iron, and I'm just going to hover and steam it. I'm not touching the iron to the fabric, so I don't want to burn it. And I'm just going to press it. And actually, this is the perfect time to whip out my little Point Perfect tool. See, it's the perfect size to trap the heat in there and the moisture. So I'm just going to hold down my Point Perfect pressing tool instead of getting my big clapper out. Okay, and look at how that's so much nicer. Okay, there are a little bit of ripples in it, but when these are on my daughter, they're stretched skin tight, so it's not going to matter if it's a little stretched out there. But you can see I can pull this really hard and it's going to stay put now. And the nice thing is, let me show you the inside. I have the knit strip that's running along the seam that I fixed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my small sharp scissors, and I'm just going to trim really close to the edge and get rid of that extra. So it is a nice soft finish. It's not going to be irritating. And you can see why I didn't want to use a traditional 4-thread stitch on my serger to fix this. Because now it's still laying flat, and it basically looks like it looked before I tried to fix it, which is always the goal when you're fixing something. So the hole is now gone, and I think that this is now really nicely reinforced, and it'll last her hopefully the rest of the season. And I'll go from this side, and I'll just put my clapper. See how nice that is? And that's from the wrong side. And then I'll show you the other side that I did backwards. This was the side where I put the fabric on the right side. Okay, so it looks fine there, and it looks fine on the finished seam here. All right, so that's how you fix the seam if it's coming undone and you have a flat construction. The Eloflex thread will add that extra little bit of stretch that you wouldn't get if you used a standard all-purpose thread. So, you know, I think this will add to the durability of my repair job. So that's how I'm using the Eloflex thread for this. And if you have any questions or comments about this, you can post them below. If you have your own split seam that you need help with, please, you know, message me on Facebook or leave a comment, you know, send me a picture, and I'll be able to help you figure out the best way to put it back together so there's no more hole. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.